This month, men's health awareness takes center stage. We have topics covering everything from brain and mental health to physical fitness. Plus, June is also Pride Month. Coming up, my special on the transgender community and mental health awareness. But we start things right off here at the gym. And we thank Baruch College for giving us a gym pass. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. You're watching Asian American Life. Tipping the scale, fitness guru shares his secret behind his massive weight loss. Plus, how are men and women wired differently? We meet the scientist who's mapping our brains. Food for thought. How can diet improve our memory? And June is also Pride Month. We look at mental health in the LGBTQ community. From emergency room to the C-suite, meet the doctor who's leading one of the largest healthcare systems in New York. This and more on Asian American Life.
Stereotypes have long characterized Asian men as physically weak and unathletic. Biases that are being broken by one Hawaiian-born fitness guru. From high-intensity studio training to intimate at-home virtual workouts.
In 5, 4, 3, twist through the core.
Keoni Hudoba has built a fitness brand on meeting his clients where they're at.
I want to show up for people exactly how they show up for me.
For the renowned trainer, that means a daily 2:30 a.m. wake-up call to go instruct at the famous Barry's Fitness Studio, then a race back home for a virtual workout that Keoni created during COVID called Quarantine.
I started it on Instagram. So I started using pasta pots as steps. I started using wine bottles as like weights. The amount of people that wanted to stay connected was incredible. So then I launched it on Zoom and started making it 45 minutes to an hour. And until this day, now over 6 years, we just passed our 6-year mark. I'm still doing quarantine from my living room, and we are still socially distant, but yet emotionally connected, which is incredible.
So if ever you need to reset the shoulders in this reset, then come back.
Incredible journeys are nothing new for the Hawaiian-born fitness expert who once weighed over 300 pounds.
I knew that I was a proud member of the LGBT community, but I just couldn't tell anyone. So I was hiding myself, and in that, I became addicted to food. And food became kind of a security blanket for me. I knew that everything that I was consuming would put more weight on me. That would kind of eliminate the questions of why are you single? Why don't you have a girlfriend? Why don't you have a boyfriend, etc. And so for me, every single time I ate and every single time I gained weight, it was more of a protection mechanism because I was authentically not myself in accepting who I was as a person and accepting that I was gay. And I think that that was a big thing for me that just shifted everything in my life. And once I was able to vocalize that to my family and seeing that they were accepting of it, it opened up everything for me.
An inspiring story this fitness influencer was initially embarrassed to share.
I looked at it as how would anyone take me seriously because I allowed myself to get this big. I can really get emotional talking about this because it was such a juxtaposition for me. And then my mentor was like, no, you need to tell people this is your story because then it explains everything of why you're so passionate. And it also motivates them to let them know that you're just not telling them to do a burpee push-up. You actually physically had to do it yourself to make the change.
That thought is always on Keoni's mind, as he says his work is not only his passion, but also his purpose.
I would have never thought that the kid that was over 300 pounds wearing a t-shirt on the beach would have ever been in the place that I am now, to be able to be a motivator, to give somebody that little push if they need the extra push.
And it's not just individuals Keoni wants to help, but whole communities. In his homeland of the Pacific Islands, where the highest rates of obesity in the world are found, according to the World Health Organization.
There is an overwhelming amount of obese kids, obese people, and I think it's just an island thing. I think it's slower pace. We were born on rice, we were born on soy sauce, we loved Spam.
Keoni says the key to better health isn't about depriving yourself, but rather education and mindset.
You don't have to cut everything out. You just have to find healthier ways of doing the things that you like. So like eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. To this day, I still love peanut butter and jelly. Like, I'm 43, still love a PB&J. But it's just a way of eating it healthier. Having a carb-conscious wrap, having a flaxseed wrap, having almond butter instead of, like just eating it in different ways.
Adapting has become a trademark of this Asian fitfluencer who says he's happy to break the mold.
There's a lot of similar looking people in the industry, but I think that allows us as Asian Americans, as Polynesians, to literally break the barrier and show up for each other.
So my friends, life really begins when you stop doubting yourself and you start to show up for yourself.
For Asian American Life, I'm Susan Junn.
I'm Kyung Yoon. My interview with the computational neuroscientist Sebastian Sung, whose groundbreaking work has been redrawing the boundaries of what we know about the brain. Sebastian Sung calls himself a cartographer of the brain, a fitting title for someone who has spent his career mapping one of science's greatest mysteries, how the brain makes us who we are.
The brain is a network of neurons. If you want to map a network of neurons, you need to figure out all the pattern of connections between these neurons. And the network map for a brain is called a connectome. And you can imagine that as like the maps you see in the back pages of airline magazines.
Except the neurons are cities, and the flights or connections between them are the connectomes. That's what Sebastian Sung's team at Princeton and their international collaborators achieved in 2024, a complete map of the brain of an adult fruit fly, which happens to be the size of a poppy seed.
But that tiny brain has 150,000 neurons. And the branches of the neurons are like the wires of the brain. Those branches, if you laid them end to end, would cover an entire football field. The way that we map the connectome is by taking huge amounts of very high resolution images of brains and then processing that with computers with artificial intelligence, because the images are so voluminous that no person could ever analyze them all.
All together now. I am my connectome.
Sebastian Sung's TED Talk on connectomes has been watched more than 1.3 million times, an almost unheard of reach for a scientist. His telegenic presence and talent for turning dense science into compelling storytelling have made him a breakout star in the field.
In my TED Talk, I said, "You are more than your genes, you are your connectome." And this slogan, I'm very much known for this slogan. And why do we say that? Well, genes do shape your brain wiring, but your brain wiring, your connections, they also are changed by experiences. So every time you experience something and you store a memory of it, neuroscientists believe that the pattern of connections in your brain is changed permanently, and that's how you're able to store a memory. So that means that your personal identity could be somehow encoded in your connectome, your memories, your personality, all those things, whether they're coming from your genes or from your unique set of experiences. So I like to say that the connectome is where nature and nurture meet.
Sebastian Sung was born in New York and grew up in Austin, Texas, the son of Korean immigrants who fled North Korea as refugees. He says his parents' journey through war, displacement, and the struggle to build a new life in America has been a source of strength, a lesson in resilience and perseverance.
I think kids of immigrants, we get these very precious lessons from our parents, but we also carry the weight, a kind of intergenerational weight. Some people feel like it might be a curse, right? They complain about their parents, but it's also a source of power. Yeah, it cuts both ways.
Earlier this year, Sung was awarded the prestigious National Academy of Sciences 2026 Pradel Research Award for his groundbreaking contributions to computational neuroscience. He believes connectome mapping could be a game changer for brain health, making visible the wiring differences behind mental disorders that have long been hidden.
People say Johnny's just that way, he's wired differently. But those kinds of things, they were just claims. There was no evidence because you couldn't see those wires. Now that we've developed the technology to trace the wires, find the connectome, we should be able to accelerate the search for cures for mental disorders.
Sebastian Sung also wants to apply connectomes to build a new kind of AI, rooted in biological neural networks and not the artificial ones that dominate today's models. I'm Kyung-Yoon for Asian American Life.
I'm Vivian Lee. Plenty of people are eating more healthy food for their heart health, but what about their brains? Well, the good news from experts is if you're already eating for your heart's sake, you're on the right path to improving the defenses for your brain against cognitive decline.
Over here, Chef Zaya. Hi, Chef Zaya. Say hello. Is getting ready to marinate the salmon. It's a Dijon-based marinade this week, and everything is made fresh.
Claire Goldwitz is the founder of Square Fare, a personalized meal delivery service in New York City. Her chef and staff prepare, cook, then package custom-made meals for the coming week at this commercial kitchen in Queens. These gluten-free, low-sodium meals are made with whole foods and no added sugar. Goldwitz has hundreds of subscribers. When they signed up, more than a few checked off brain health as a dietary goal.
About 20% of our clients have mentioned brain health as something that they want to be working on. And it's interesting too because it looks like it's pretty evenly split between male and female. As far as when they start caring about it, it looks like it starts a little bit earlier for men, so like early 30s. For women, it starts in the 40s.
Our choices in the middle years, ages 40 to 65, are significant for brain health in the late years. Studies in JAMA Neurology and the Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry found midlife men and women who followed the DASH and MIND diets scored higher on cognitive tests than those who did not. Another study published 3 years ago by researchers at Columbia and NYU Langone's Women's Health Study found similar results. The women who had followed the DASH diet since midlife reported fewer subjective cognitive complaints in their 70s and 80s than those who had not. Cognitive complaints, moments of feeling mentally off, included getting lost on a familiar street.
They have a 20% of reduced risk to have cognitive complaint. And the cognitive complaint has been shown to directly predict later dementia.
Dr. Yu Chen is an epidemiologist who co-authored the NYU Langone study. She says the findings mean we should all be proactive about brain health by eating better. The DASH diet, dietary approaches to stopping hypertension, emerged in the 1990s. The National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute calls it an eating plan with daily and weekly goals aimed at reducing high blood pressure and bad cholesterol. Because it prioritizes potassium, magnesium, calcium, fiber, and protein, the DASH diet centers vegetables and fruits, whole grains, low-fat or fat-free dairy, fish, poultry, beans, nuts, and seeds, and vegetable oils. It limits fatty and processed meats, full-fat dairy, sugar, and salt. The MIND diet, a hybrid of the DASH diet and the Mediterranean diet from 2015, centers berries, leafy greens, and olive oil to promote brain health.
In general, it's a heart-healthy diet that reduces hypertension, and a lot of people don't know that hypertension or heart disease are risk factors for dementia.
Today, nearly 7.5 million people in the U.S. are living with Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia. Other forms include dementia with Lewy body and Parkinson's. The telltale symptoms, memory loss, poor judgment, impulsive behavior, and trouble reading, writing, and speaking, there's still no cure and no known direct cause. But older age, genetics, diet, head injury, and hormones are believed to be some of the more prominent risk factors. While women are at higher risk of developing dementia than men, especially after age 65, many studies point out women live longer than men on average. Some studies have found that men who have never married or are widowed are at higher risk of developing dementia. Men with sleep apnea, as well as men undergoing androgen deprivation therapy to treat prostate cancer, are also at higher risk.
I know in my genes, I have my father's genes. So I think maybe for 20 years now, we've tried to have a very different diet than my dad.
Mei Shi's father died a decade ago of Parkinson's. Parkinson's leads to dementia in a third of those diagnosed with it.
He was raised eating a lot of sugary food. He was born to a family which has, always had a lot of meat. But I'm very consciously taking turmeric, ginger, I'm taking green tea, also focusing on having more biotics.
Prebiotics, like veggies, fruits, and whole grains, and probiotics in fermented foods such as yogurt and kimchi, strengthen the gut. A systematic review of nearly 500 studies on fermented foods concluded daily consumption slows cognitive decline in old age. Antioxidants in green tea and turmeric can reduce the oxidative stress that can trigger chronic inflammation in the body, also linked to Alzheimer's. Reducing chronic inflammation is one of Kendra Bova's specialties.
If a client came to me and they had a goal of optimizing brain health for whatever reason, I'm immediately focusing on the 4 pillars of blood sugar, inflammation, cholesterol, the gut.
A registered dietitian nutritionist, Bova analyzes a client's blood and stool samples for signs of oxidation and chronic inflammation before recommending what they should eat. She says the DASH diet is a good guideline, but no 2 microbiomes are the same.
Everybody's metabolism is different. Everybody, has different detoxification abilities. I'm never going to recommend you eat kimchi every day if it makes you bloated and gassy and makes you feel uncomfortable.
Bova did identify these dishes from Square Fare for a brain health-focused eater. A breakfast of overnight oats with spirulina, berries, coconut flakes, and dark chocolate. Lemon herb salmon with quinoa, green beans, roasted vegetables, and an orange fennel vinaigrette. And turmeric roasted chickpeas with black rice, vegetables, and a light coconut turmeric sauce. Feeding your head can be delicious. To learn more about Alzheimer's and dementia, visit alts.org. For Asian American Life, I'm Vivian Lee.
June is also Pride Month, so we turn our focus now on the transgender community. For many Asian American trans individuals, mental health challenges are deeply tied to family expectations, cultural stigma, and the fear of rejection. Now add to that the anti-trans political climate.
I think living in an environment that's constantly wants to erase you, wants to make your life difficult, it's definitely taking a toll on my mental health.
Jackie Wu transitioned in 2023. That year, the country saw an unprecedented surge in anti-transgender legislation, with over 500 bills targeting LGBTQ+ rights and at least 85 bills signed into law.
The conservative majority Supreme Court Thursday allowed the Trump administration to temporarily enforce a discriminatory passport policy against transgender, non-binary, and intersex people.
But at some point, it's you become numb to it because, there's only so low you could go, and so it's difficult. But the trans community is very resilient. We have a lot of advocates who are doing the work.
One of those advocates is Dr. Kevin Nadal, a CUNY Distinguished Professor whose work focuses on the mental health impact of discrimination on the Asian American and LGBTQ plus communities. He told us with every win, like marriage equality, there have been many setbacks.
So as we saw the rise of same-sex marriage and marriage equality with the recent SCOTUS cases, and then seeing the increase in visibility of transgender people on television shows and movies and just media in general, there was a campaign, ways in which people started to be really vocal and promote violence against transgender people.
According to a 2026 report in JAMA, nearly 2/3 of transgender people worldwide experience physical or sexual violence during their lifetimes. And advocates say living with this chronic fear of violence, from verbal harassment to physical assault, has taken an emotional toll on the community, leading to high rates of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation.
And I think one thing that I hope people who are not transgender understand is this perspective of what it means to be a trans person in this society today. To understand that it isn't something that they are being paranoid about, it isn't something that they're exaggerating or blowing out of proportion. It's a daily fear that trans people have every single day whenever they leave their homes.
For trans people of color, mental health challenges are compounded with racism and cultural pressures.
They're dealing with the intersections of both identities. And with that comes the obstacles from being trans, the numerous ways in which systemic oppression affects them, the misunderstandings that they might have within their family, the ways in which they might be targeted by violence in any single moment of their lives. And then you have their Asian American identity, in which they may also struggle with issues related to systemic oppression, but also feel that their parents may not understand them or their families may not accept them.
For some trans youth, the pressure can be overwhelming. The Trevor Project found that 50% of AAPI youth considered suicide in the past year. And while this is a sobering statistic, Nadal says we can also look at the data in another way.
The one thing that I hope we can see is that while it is a staggering statistic that 50% of Asian American trans kids consider suicide, we also realize that 50% of them don't.
Right.
And so maybe that's something we have to lean on. What are we doing for the 50% that do feel that they don't have to seek suicide as an option?
Nadal says programs like the AAPI Pride Project, which we featured on a past episode of Asian American Life, are a great example of how parents teach other Asian parents how to support their LGBTQ plus children.
Love is still love.
Jackie Wu said she waited to transition because of filial piety. Honoring one's parents is one of the core tenets of Confucianism, which still plays a major role in the lives of many Chinese families. In fact, when Wu did decide to start taking hormone pills, she didn't tell her parents.
I didn't have to tell them. I just had my ID changed and it got mailed to the home. I kept their address as my mailing address.
Acceptance eventually came, and for Wu, even the smallest gestures of support from her family affirming her gender meant a lot to her.
They're coming around with it. I noticed they're using more like gender-neutral language. So my parents are really great, helpful with that. And even my grandma, when I saw her in China, she said to me, "Oh, you look like a girl. All you're missing is some earrings." And I'm like, that's just like grandma. I was so happy. She made my day that time.
It's the small wins like this that Nadal says bring him hope. Hope for a world where the transgender community feels supported, accepted, and less alone.
We can never give up fighting. We can never be complacent. We have to always think about ways in which we ensure that everyone lives the most successful, most loving, most optimal life that they deserve.
For Asian American Life, I'm Ernabelle DeMillo.
I'm Kyung Yoon at Bellevue, America's oldest public hospital and a cornerstone of medical history. which made a different kind of history this year when Dr. Eric Wei became its CEO, the first Asian American to lead this iconic institution.
This one of my favorite pictures of Kermit the Frog.
Dr. Eric Wei may lead the nation's largest public hospital system, but a Muppet portrait in his office is a reminder of where he came from. Born in America as a son of Taiwanese immigrants, he was named Kermit, a name his parents thought sounded pleasantly American. When they later learned that their son might be teased, they changed it to Eric. This experience shaped Dr. Wei's empathy for immigrants and vulnerable people trying to navigate unfamiliar cultures and systems. That commitment is embedded in who he is and how he leads. It's also at the core of Bellevue's mission.
The mission has been the same for the past 289 years, which is anyone who comes through the doors deserves high-quality, safe healthcare with a good experience, without exception. So we're not going to turn people away based off of the race, the language they speak, whether they're housed or unhoused, insurance status. Everyone deserves it.
As CEO, Dr. Wei oversees 11 hospitals, dozens of clinics, and care for more than 1 million New Yorkers every year.
And through every infectious disease crisis, through every natural disaster crisis, over the past 289 years, Bellevue has been at the center as an anchor, helping New York City respond to and recover from that. And so there's examples of Ebola, HIV, AIDS, most recently COVID.
Walking through the halls of Bellevue with Dr. Wei, it becomes clear this is not a CEO tucked away in the corner office with his head in the clouds of administration. He's hands-on, grounded, and close to the action.
Are they just like doing the Q where it's like substance?
Trained in emergency medicine, Dr. Wei insists on doing a shift in Bellevue's emergency department every week.
I'm just focused on the patients in front of me, teaching the residents, teaching the medical students, working with our APPs. It is refreshing in a way of like, this is why I got into medicine in the first place. It works both directions. I can't transform into an out-of-touch bureaucrat if I'm still seeing patients and still attached to the clinical piece.
Kyung Yoon, Asian American Life.
And that's our show for now. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and 24/7 on the CUNY TV app. I'm Ernabelle DeMillo. We'll see you next time. Have a great summer. Support your favorite programming here at CUNY TV. Please consider donating at cuny.tv.edu/donate.